You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the August 14th, 2023 meeting of the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good afternoon. Today we have the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission regular meeting. Today is Monday, August 14th, 2023. First up, we've got the roll call. Ms. Nelson Deitch.
Present.
Mr. Warner.
Present.
Mr. Demkowski.
Present.
Ms. Dennis.
Present.
Mr. Barrett absent. Skylar York.
Present.
Attorney Cyranek. And I am here as well. First up, we've got the minutes from the 7/17 executive session and the 7/17 hybrid regular meeting. Are there any comments or changes?
I move for adoption.
I'll second.
Okay. Go ahead and call the vote here. Ms. Nelson Deitch.
Aye.
Mr. Warner.
Aye.
Ms. Dennis.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Thank you. Next up, we've got the claims. I'll hand it over to Skylar.
This is the claims for August 14th, 2023. For July of 2023, for payroll, we have CDBG reimbursables, staff, and commissioners. From our operating account, we have corporate payment systems for conference, K. Anthony Petter Preservation Historic Places. We have Great America for the copier fees for August 2023. Cyranek Law Offices for legal retainer for 2023. North TIF, from the North TIF account, we have August MAC for former Begley Concord Trail Creek properties. Baker Tilly continuing disclosure for December of 2022. Barnes and Thornburg for legal services for the Bloxham arbitration. Butler, Fairman, and Seifert for Washington Park Boulevard Streetscape project. Global Engineering for legal description for TIF and general engineering. HDR Engineering for the station block TOD modifications. Cyranek Law Offices for legal services in the North TIF for July 2023, plus reimbursables for filing fees. Those were associated with the filings for recordings for the station block. U.S. Bank for administrative fees for the refunded 2021 Wabash Street bond. Wallach, Summers, and Haas for legal fees for the Transit Center for July 2023. From the South TIF, we have Baker Tilly for continuing disclosures for December of 2022. DLZ for South TIF Connectivity Improvement Project, pay number 17. Cyranek Law Offices for legal services in the South TIF for July 2023. And from the refunded 2021 Elston Grove bond, we have U.S. Bank for Operation and Reserve Fund and administrative fees for 6/1/23 through 5/31/24.
Great, thank you. I'd like to go ahead and entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve the claims as presented. Done.
Lean in, Kathy.
Okay. I move to approve the claims as presented.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we'll go ahead and bring this to a vote. Ms. Dennis.
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deutsch.
Aye.
Mr. Warner.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Next up, we've got the financial report for June 30th.
This is June 30th, 2023 financial report from the in our cash account, operating account. We have $292,795.14. From the Southside TIF account, we have $8,051,839.69. In the Southside TIF debt reserve account, we have $336,308.50. In the Southside TIF capital account, we have $16,358.60. Sorry, I lost my spot here. Oh, in the North End TIF account, we have $4,388,220.39. In the East Side TIF, we have $323,049.18. From the Northeast TIF account, we have $736,911.00. In our loans receivable, we have a county business loan fund for $133,333.00 for total assets of $14,278,813.50.
Great, thank you. I'd like to go ahead and entertain a motion for approval.
I move for approval of the financial report.
Second.
Ms. Dennis,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deutsch,
Aye.
Mr. Warner,
Aye.
and I vote yes as well. Motion carries. We're going to be moving some things around on the agenda tonight. For time's sake. Next up, we're actually going to be moving the scope of work for consulting services with ALB Consulting up to this point here. Skylar, I'll kind of hand it over to you.
Yes. So tonight, as you know, I'm looking for someone to help me do some RFPs and a few other things with regards to the Redevelopment Commission. I just need some help getting some things done. But I also need some expertise and help of writing this RFP that we're looking at doing for the Pond Street properties. I would like, right now, they have submitted a contract with me. The contract is in review right now in Attorney Alan Cernak's hands. I would like to add a couple more hours to that. Right now, he's proposing 10 hours. I would like for us to be able to go up to at least 20 hours. He's also proposing a fee of $12,000 to help me do this. I would like to do a not to exceed of 15,000 for that, just to give me a little flexibility, because there are going to be some other things I want him to help me with regards to the solar project that's coming on board now, and the Pond Street development project. So that being said, I know Alan's here. I guess I'm looking for an approval of not to exceed $15,000 and up to 20 hours a week. And then pending just Alan's review of the contract. Yeah, it's for it's for consulting for Angel Bittner. Yeah, we're moving 11 up. Yep.
All right. I move that we approve the scope of work for consulting services with ALB Consulting not to exceed $15,000 and up to 20 hours per week.
I will second.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and put it up for a vote. Ms. Dennis,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Warner,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Motion carries. Thank you. Next up, we're going to move the report by legal counsel up to the next spot, so 14. Mr. Cernak.
I'll only cover just one of the things that we want to talk about with this. Brad Minnick, the city engineer, with respect to the has been working with the Redevelopment Commission and the Planning Department for bus shelters throughout 10 different locations throughout Michigan City. When Brad and I last talked, he was going to and has put out quotes, requests for quotes, and I think those went out when? Last Monday, and the due date was the beginning of this meeting. So what we want to do tonight, with your permission, is for Brad to open those quotes, put those in as a matter of record, and then get to the point of where Brad and I can review those together and basically award a contract to the lowest and most responsive bidder, I'm a quoter, provided that they meet the requirements consistent both with the quote request, but then also in terms of the engineering requirements from Brad's perspective. That's what we've been discussing.
Thank you. Brad, come on up.
Good evening, Brad Minnick, Haas and Associates. If you'd want to call for any additional bids that may be, quotes that may be in hand at the meeting.
Deadline.
Okay. So the first bid we have, quote, thank you, is from Marcus Electric, 203 East Harrison Street, Michigan City. And that was received earlier today at 3:07 p.m. Total base bid cost per project, $157,914. $157,914.00. The second quote came from Reese Riley, their LaPorte office. The amount of $557,500. $557,500. Those are the only two quotes received.
Brad, can you read that first quote again, just so I can write it down? I missed the end of it.
$157,914.00. 157,914.
Okay, thank you.
So I think at this point, two things. One is, obviously this is a public service project that's very good for all of Michigan City in terms of putting bus shelters up, covered shelters. Excuse me. And obviously want to get those things in before the beginning of nasty weather. The second thing, though, is that, and because of that urgency, then the thing that is formally being asked of the commission tonight is to basically direct Brad and myself to look at the quotes, make sure they're responsive, make sure they meet both the legal standard as well as the engineering standards. And particularly when we're talking about here, roughly a $400,000 difference in the two quotes. Certainly there needs to be an explanation on that. But we just, I think at this point then would be asking for a motion to allow Brad and I to look at and make a determination as to the lowest and most responsive quote, and that to enter into contract negotiations for either one or the other dollar amounts has been indicated, or reject them both and provide notice to the commission, regardless of whatever the determination that's made, but would ask for the permission to go forth with that based on that termination, so we don't have to wait another month or call a special meeting, one or the other.
Yeah, I would also remind the commission that we have allocated money. We set aside, I believe we did some ARPA funds, and then we matched the ARPA funds with an equal amount. I think it was 200,000 and 200,000, and we made our findings of the economic benefit of all this and things of that nature. So
Right.
we already have allocated, if you will.
Right. And we did previously allocate for or approve the request for quotes or bids when it was part of a larger project, but that didn't happen. And so now we've actually tied it into a just specifically for this so we can get going with it.
And I just want to inform everyone that the bus shelters we have them. They've been being stored, and it's important to kind of look at that when it's moving into this weather. They are solar, so we want to try to get them in as efficiently as possible, just to make our deadline that we gave you guys at the beginning of this project when we requested the funds.
Mm. So the motion that you're asking for is to allow us to let you and Mr. Minnick make a decision on the best, most responsive
and lowest cost.
Okay. So I move that we allow our attorney, Cyranek, to move forward with Brad Minnick on the most cost-effective and responsive quote for the installation of our bus shelters.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? Go ahead and put it to vote here. Ms. Dennis,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Warner,
Aye.
and I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Mr. President is going to let me introduce the next one. Our next order of business is number 6. It is a request for use of the You Are Beautiful lot on September 23rd, 2023. And Calvin Hawkins, pardon me, is making that request right now. You may recall we granted the similar request. When was that?
Like
29th.
Yeah.
For a basically a car audio battle. I think it went very well. And it was very well organized. I did attend for a little while. I found it very interesting, to say the least. But I really appreciate you coming back to us. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna hand the floor over to you.
I'm asking for the same thing, and if approved, once again, I'll show y'all the $2 million liability insurance. They were supposed to block the street off on 2nd Street, but they didn't do it, but we still had no problems with traffic or anything. With the proceeds, we put it back into the Nikisha Foundation, and I was able to be with the police for the nights out, and the money that I got, I put it back in the community. I bought 100 backpacks, school supplies, and lanyards and bracelets for the kids.
Yep. Awesome.
That's awesome, Mr. Hawkins. Thank you.
So I'm just asking for the same thing for the last of the year, and the proceeds will go back into the foundation, so I'm able to continue my bowling league with the kids. Because me and my wife, we're doing this out of our own pocket. I get on the semi truck every day with weeks and go to past the border, back up here to Wisconsin, and pay our bills and put the rest of the money in the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. So this is a car audio decibel,
Yeah,
right?
It was before.
And I did not hear anything on the other side of town. So
It was a good event.
It's a good thing.
It was a good event. I move that we that we approve the request for September 23rd from 11 to 8 p.m.
I will second that.
Any further discussion? Go ahead and put it to vote here. Ms. Dennis,
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch,
Aye.
Mr. Warner,
Aye.
and I vote yes as well. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins.
What's the next time I need to come back with the insurance?
What we'll probably do is let's have him submit it to the I assume we're going to go through Board of Works.
Okay,
Let's just submit it at Board of Works, and then we can get a copy from there. But make sure you name City of Michigan City and City of Michigan City Redevelopment Commission. We have a double name on it. Does that sound accurate? I think that's what we did last time.
City of Michigan City and City of Redevelopment.
Michigan City Redevelopment Commission. And I think if you submit that to the Board of Works, we should be covered. And Amber will probably notify Alan.
All right, I appreciate you.
I'll be at the meeting, so I'll make sure it gets there.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you so much.
Great. Next up, we've got agenda item number 7, Haas and Associates proposal for the civil engineering services.
This is basically a proposal for basically for Haas Associates, and I think specifically Brad Minnick again, given his expertise. But it's for do I remember right? It's $50,000. Is that right? I think that's what it was. Yeah, $50,000, not to exceed $50,000. And it's for basically the idea behind this is, you know, we get into these projects where we need an engineer. Beyond the requirements are beyond Skylar and beyond the planning department, and they're technical in nature such that we need to have an engineer to look at various kinds of projects, as well as both from the front end, but also in terms of the actual implementation or management or administration of the actual program implementation, project implementation. So this proposal calls for both to assist in the actual writing of a proposal for a task, a project that Skylar and his group would identify. And then also, if it was a bid or a quote situation that was necessary, they would prepare all of that. And then finally, when it came to project occurring, they would administer to make sure it was being done correctly. At this point, there are 2 projects that are listed on that. The Michigan City bus shelters, coincidentally enough. But then also the Michigan City parking lot striping package. That was the project, as you recall, when as part of the overall double track project, and NICD is planning on starting to do some type of operations from Michigan City this summer still, or is it probably close to late summer, early fall?
Yes.
And so we have identified both with the public school system at Elston parking lot. I know Attorney Paycheck, and I think there were 2 or 3 other different places, and that's fine. We have their permission. They will allow the parking to occur, which is great, but they're not really parking lots at this point. They're parking lots, but parking lots of striping on it to make them look that way. And then we also need to put signs and maps of how they get to that parking lot to the train station. So those are the 2 things that are included in this, or at least on the project list at this point. And then other services that may occur between Skylar and Brad and anything else. So that's in a nutshell where this is. There's nothing unusual in this agreement. There's nothing that would cause us alarm. And in fact, in many ways, it's fairly typical of Haas and Associates project agreements with us.
Mr. York, can you kind of speak through why this came up? And
Sure. It's coming up because of, well, the bus shelter program was one of them. I needed Brad to basically put out the quotes, put that package together. That's something that's very tedious and time consuming. It has to be done a certain way for it to go through our legal counsel. So he can take that. He also deals with the specs, and he put the specs together before when we bid it out when it was part of a larger project. So it only made sense to just have him kind of take it, pull it apart, take it out of that project, quote it out and see if we could get this project going because it's a very important project. Some of the other things that are coming along, we will need review of the solar project when the civil engineer comes back to me and has the civil drawings, which is probably going to happen in the near future. There are also any type of civil engineering questions I have with regard to the station block, which we're about to kick off. I think we've pretty much got most of those nailed down, but right now Brad is helping us think through 10th Street and how 10th Street operates. He's also helping us think through the mode of transportation for hauling these very large pieces of concrete through our city when they start building them. So it's things like that come up that are outside the scope of they're in our scope because of we're involved in it. We're the ones providing the funding for it. They're outside the scope of the Board of Public Works because they're not a curb cut permit. They're not a paving of a road, essentially things like that. They're more in our wheelhouse because there's something we're involved in. It's something that we're promoting or funding or doing. You know, like we're the ones doing the bus shelters. Really, we're leading the charge on that. So it's those type of things that kind of come up where I need to kick something to Brad and say, hey, you know, I really need someone to review this I'm not a civil engineer at all, so I need someone to look at the stamp drawings and really who has that PE behind their name and says, yeah, this makes sense. This turning radius is right. This road can hold this piece of concrete on a truck moving through a city. It's those type of things.
I do have a question. So as far as the bus shelter program, it sounds like we'll have money that's allocated. Why can't we just, for purposes of, can't he bill to that? I mean, we have $400,000, right?
We do, but we tried to put as much as we could into. We didn't know how much it was going to cost to construct them. Okay. And yes, you are correct. We could do that. The goal was to reserve as much as we could to allow Robin to maybe retrofit some of the existing bus shelters. The idea was to make them at least look like the ones we have, or we may be able to purchase and replace. We're just trying to see what we have left over. Okay. I was kind of letting Robin dictate a little bit of that. Robin's our transportation director, just for public's knowledge. But we're just trying to reserve as much and get as much infrastructure out there as we possibly could. That was the idea.
Okay, got it.
I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for approval.
As a civil engineer in this great state of Indiana, I certainly recommend that we move forward with this proposal for civil engineering services of Haas and Associates not to exceed $50,000.
I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion? Go ahead and put it to a vote here. Ms. Dennis?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Next up, we've got the public hearing for consolidation of North and South TIF areas and expansion and confirming the resolution today. I believe we've got Mr. Rampala joining us as well. Randy, I think I'll go ahead and kick it off to you when you have a second. We've got Andy Mouser as well joining us. I think you're on mute possibly.
Sorry about that. Hi.
There you go. Hello.
Randy Rampola with Barnes and Thornburg. I apologize. I can't be there in person. I'm actually out on the East Coast. So, but what is before you is the confirming resolution. And as you indicated, there does need to be a public hearing for the confirming resolution. You are at the final step of the process to not only consolidate the area and the South Tiff area, but then also to do some expansions of it. One expansion is the link between the two, and then the other expansion is down Michigan Boulevard away. And so, as some of you are aware, this has been to the Plan Commission, this has been to the Common Council. Each body has approved it. The Common Council approved it at its last meeting. So the final step would be to not hold a public hearing and then consider adoption of this resolution, which effectively restates everything that's happened to date and restates the need for the consolidation. And we talked a little bit about the consolidation. It will have no effect on the existing TIF allocation areas. They will continue uninterrupted. The one thing I did not mention, of course, this also creates the new allocation area for the station block itself. So that'll create that new separate TIF allocation. That the TIF from that project then will be used for the bonds we'll talk about in a little bit. But as for your existing allocation areas, nothing will change. The base dates don't change. The termination dates don't change. All this is doing is providing you with the ability in the future, to the extent you have TIF being generated either in the north or south, and have projects that, while I've indicated at the prior meeting, are important to the city, they may not reach the transformational stage as, say, the double track project that you completed some years ago or financed some years ago, or this station block project. So we thought it made sense to provide for this consolidation to allow you more flexibility going forward. With that, I'll stop and answer any questions.
No questions. All right. I'll go ahead and open it up I'll entertain a motion for approval. Oh, I'm sorry. Public comment.
Yeah, we're going to
Open up for public comment, please. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dave Bila. I live at 3044 Ohio Street. I've got a remonstrance to this specific effort that I'd like to read to you, and I could provide you additional detail. Again, Mr. Cernick helped me out a little bit. We ran into one another in LaPorte, and sir, you pointed me in the right direction. So thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is, as I said, Dave Bila. Indiana Code 36725-7, 36725-7, Chapter 25 addresses the powers of the Redevelopment Commission. In 2014, after following the example derived from the Michigan City area, or from the Valparaiso school system, the Michigan City area schools entered in an agreement similar to the program that was established from the sort of utilized the Valparaiso program and adopted a similar program here in Michigan City. Tax dollars that were lost by the Michigan City area schools through its TIF funding program were to be reimbursed to the Michigan City area schools through an educational challenge grant. That educational challenge grant was renewed in 2019 by both parties, Michigan City area schools, as well as Redevelopment Commission. In 2017, Indiana law changed. And basically that change specifically said that the Michigan City area schools can recoup 15% of their lost revenue from the Redevelopment Commission. All right. For the past 4 years, the Michigan City area schools was eligible. Well, this 2025 will be the 5th year of this renewed program. For the past 4 years, Michigan City area schools should be a beneficiary of that 15%, reclaiming its funds from the Redevelopment Commission. By adopting this resolution combining the North and South District, With the addition of the transportation project, a new percentage of funds may be lost if the original TIF district is no longer there. The Redevelopment Commission knows how much revenue it's received over the last 4 years. Just go back to your books. And they know how much money they owe the Michigan City area schools through this 15% reimbursement program. I realize the pecking order of TIF in relationship to the Michigan City area schools. TIF takes priority over Michigan City area schools. In effect, Michigan City area schools is on the second step of the rung of the ladder when it comes to TIF appropriations. But Michigan City education funding should be the top priority of this community, especially here in Michigan City, when roughly 50% of its residents live at or below the poverty level. This is why I'm against the resolution in its current state until the money's owed by TIF to the Michigan City area schools is paid for. Going to 36-725-7, again, what can TIF money be used for? And 36-7-14-39 talks about excess property revenue. And I'm sure when Tyler read the financial report, I'm sure glad that he included the June tax draw, because the last meeting, the meeting of this July 17th, that money wasn't included. So now you're at $14 plus million. And if you take into account that 15% that is due to the Michigan City area schools, I feel that education is a stepchild of the Redevelopment Commission, even though, according to law, it's allowed to happen. So I'm opposed to this until the Michigan City area schools gets what they deserve. And that's that 15%.
Can I respond?
Please. Question first.
As I told you the other day, and I'm going to tell you right now, you're wrong. No, seriously though. Indiana Code 36-7-25-7, and you get down there to section E, and it says, and I'm quoting, a commission may not spend more than 15% of the allocated tax proceeds it receives on an annual basis.
That is correct.
So not more than 15%. It doesn't say we have to spend 15%, doesn't say required to spend 15%. It just says if there's something that we pick out and we identify, then we cannot spend any more than 15%. That's one point. The second thing is, look, I think you and I are probably in the same age range, so maybe my recollection isn't as good as it used to be either. However, as I recall, because I was the attorney at that time and did help draft a lot of the documents that went in place for this technology grant, this was something where the schools approached the commission and said, we are falling further behind in the area of technology, and particularly falling behind as relates not only to 21st century standards, but also in the neighboring school district standards. So on the basis of that and the findings as required by the statute, that this program will enhance community development, will enhance overall community growth. It's in the public's best interest, et cetera, the language that's required in the statute. We came up with a plan in conjunction with the schools to, I think it's $500,000, $400,000, $600,000 a year that we've been doing for the past. We originally did for the first 3 years, and then that project has been renewed. But it was not something that was patterned after Valparaiso. It was not something that was patterned or required by law. The law says we can, not that we must. Mm-hmm. The law says that because we can look at a project or we can look at a proposal, and as long as the proposal meets certain kinds of things that are good for the public, one of those programs being educational programs, then we are able to do so. But we can't go above 15%. So we don't have a situation here of where the Redevelopment Commission owes the school system 15% for the past 5 years. It doesn't mean that we can't enter into another project with the schools for a specific purpose that is delineated in such a manner that shows that we are that the project will enhance the public good. And again, I agree with you. Anybody in their right mind is going to agree with you. Schools, education is good. It's good for the public. But we really just sit and wait for the school or respond to the schools when they have a proposal. Their initial proposal was the technology enhancement program. They asked to renew that. They asked to expand that. We have done all those things. But I don't agree with you. And again, with all due respect, you're flat out wrong to say that we're required to give 15%. That's not the way that's not what the statute says.
My intent, ladies and gentlemen, here is to bring this issue to light. All right. The June draw to the TIF district redevelopment commission was in excess of $3,924,000. There is ample funds to enhance this specific contribution to the Michigan City area schools.
Not what the statute says, though. The statute says we can do a project with the schools or work training or worker retraining or marketing and advertisement or any other programs. There's a cap on the advertisement on the program part of 7.5%. But we can do that. But again, somebody has to come to us.
Yes, I understand.
And we make that determination. But we still have to make findings, specific findings of a public good. And again, so that's not, none of that is before the board at this time. There is, it's just not a thing of where we can take that $3.9 million that you cited and say, okay, we cipher off 15% of that and give it straight to the schools. It can't work.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Cernick. I am here to bring this issue to light. And this, in my mind, was an opportune time to bring this to light because I am a member of the possible merger of the North and South Side District. What better opportunity do I have?
One more thing just to say, and then I'll shut up. This merger of the TIF funds will not have any impact one way or another on the Redevelopment Commission taking on any other project, including any projects with the school. It is no different than if we didn't do the merger. It is still going to be there. It is just, you're really talking about apples and oranges from the viewpoint of the fact we did this technology grant with TIF money, and we will continue to do technology grant with TIF money. The difference between right now versus after the merger of these two things, these two TIFs, these two districts, is that we can draw from different parts of the city now. We will draw from a different base. We still need to make the same findings, but the merger itself will have no effect one way or the other on the 15% allocation to the school system.
But I will disagree with you because the merger will enlarge the TIF district, and money derived from the TIF district is derived from new investment, new construction within this TIF district. So this amount of the basic June draw, once this merger takes place, will generate more funds, which would be available for the Michigan City area schools to possibly approach and request.
Can I ask a question?
And that's the point I want to make. I'm using this as a vehicle to make that point. And again, I believe in education. We've supported education. My kids are involved with Michigan City community schools. And if anyone doubts my school district funding mechanism, 26.15% of our tax bills, of all of our tax bills who reside in Michigan City, is appropriated for the Michigan City area schools. The TIF district, the established monies from tax base is not being addressed in my comment. What's being addressed is the excess money within the TIF district that conforms with current law, current state taxing law. The money is there. I'm just saying, give the school city a fair shake. And to my understanding, Mr. Cernick, That's all the school city has to do is make make a request. Am I correct?
Yes.
That's the answers I want to hear.
Yeah, I have a question though. I do have a question for you, Mr.
Sure.
Wheeler. Oh, and you keep saying draw. That's our balance. That's not what we receive each month. That is the balance. But my question is really around, have you had discussions with the school system? Because we work.
Yes, ma'am, I have.
And what is, do they have this concern? Because
I don't want to divulge. I want to
with the administration or the school board, because what I'm saying is you're saying this on behalf, like you're speaking and bringing this forward, like there's an issue between us and the school system, and we have a good relationship.
Ma'am, they didn't know about this. They knew about the grant. Okay. They didn't know about the funding mechanism. They didn't know about state law.
The CFO didn't know about state law.
I don't want to go into detail anymore. I'm just making a point to bring this issue to light.
So we have numerous discussions with the CFO. I mean, I talked to him a lot, and Mr. Domkowski is on our board for a reason. We will continue to do the grant to the school system. This doesn't negate, it doesn't take away any of that. We've made sure of that. That was one of the things we were concerned about. But also in our last presentation, when Mr. McGuire, who comes here, gives us a yearly report on what they do with the money, which is really awesome. Actually, they do a lot of cool stuff with it. I believe we made a comment that, hey, if we can do more, come back to us. And I do believe that Mr. McGuire is preparing something. He hasn't divulged to me what it is, but I do know that he he's got some ideas, and I think that we will be glad to hear those. So
again, so I can take that the support is there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So any other further public discussion? Yes, sir. Come on down.
Come on down. May I preface just one thing? I sent out a letter. It came from me, Skylar York. I'm the Director of Planning and Redevelopment. The letter, there was a lot in the letter, probably, but also a lot that if I'd have overloaded it, it would have been 5 pages long. So if I can answer questions, that's what I'll do tonight. I did answer a lot of questions via phone, but please come and ask the questions. Absolutely.
Thank you much. In fact, I found out about this from your letter, so thank you.
Name and address, please.
John Gaudio. I've got properties here at 1005 East Michigan Boulevard and 1115 East Michigan Boulevard. I actually reside in Colorado. So I did come in and get the 51-page document. I looked at it. I know a little more now than I did when I picked up the document. Would it be possible for you to give a brief description, an overview of what this all means and what effect it might have to the 2 properties that I have and anybody else who's interested?
Thank you.
And I thank you for taking the time to give us the opportunity to hear from you. But what I read, I'm sure it's brilliant, but I'm an electrical engineer, but right overhead.
No, thank you for the question.
Absolutely. Randy, I'm going to attempt to do a layman terms overview. I think that would be probably the easiest way. And I did answer a lot of phone calls. I'm just going to speak to everyone as I did with the phone calls. Randy, if I say something out of turn, please jump in. So what is a tip? Okay, so you got the letter in the mail. We're not taking any property. We're not purchasing any property. It has nothing to do with that. We do not derive TIF from houses, and we're not interested in buying your house or your property. In fact, actually, we have to do something different if we want to purchase property. We have to come back and do a different public hearing. We have to set up, it's called a acquisition list. This TIF expansion and what we're doing does not come with an acquisition list. We don't intend on purchasing property. Actually, I think Michigan City is doing pretty well right now. I don't know that we need to purchase property. Years and years and years ago, the purpose of the redevelopment commission was to but to purchase property. That's the wrong words. Purchase property, or take properties that were blighted or polluted, and basically put them back on the tax rolls, clean them, put them back on the tax rolls. Right now, Michigan City is doing very well. I don't think that our role is to really purchase. There may be some purchases, but if we have to do that, we would have to come back and do all this again. It's actually much more complicated process than this. I think our goal right now with Michigan Boulevard, and specifically the expansion down Michigan Boulevard, if you're from here or from Michigan Boulevard, my goal with Michigan Boulevard is I see that as kind of the last area that's available for really commercial development. We have commercial development down there. It was a main street at one point in time. It's an entrance into the city. Right now, we don't have any tools down there that I can help out with. I can't give you facade grants. I don't have facade potential down there. We have facade grants that happen downtown. We have infrastructure improvements that happen downtown. We don't have that ability on Michigan Boulevard. We're limited. It limits us. It ties our hands. So right now, the idea of the expansion down Michigan Boulevard specifically is with the intent of bringing it into a TIF district where we'll actually have some tools to do some investment there. Not us, but helping you do investments on a private level, or maybe we do get involved in some public-private partnerships there with vacant lands if people want to develop them. With regard down the Franklin Street corridor, that's a simple connection. The simple gist of it is to make that connection. But again, in between in between Valentine Court and St. John's Road, essentially the north-south boundary of the North TIF and the north boundary of the South TIF, we don't have tools there either. And a lot of the commercial property down there has been changing hands. It could use some facelifts. It could use some infrastructure improvements, such as with regard to infrastructure. That means sewer projects. Is there a new lift station needed as our city grows? Do we address flooding? Do we address those things that we can solve, and can we partner with our sanitary district and our water department to help out? So that's kind of the idea, is that we don't have a tool down there. We don't have the ability to do TIF. TIF is a geographically money allocated or collected from TIF is geographically located inside that district that it resides in. Right now it's north and south. If we put them together, we can actually do more projects and more benefit to the city with respect to large projects. Gives us a little bit more bonding power, things of that nature. What else can I say? There's no taking involved with this. We're not going to take your property. We're not going to we don't want to purchase right now. We're not in the there might be a project that comes to us that's just amazing, and we want to participate in it. Well, we'd have to come back if it involves purchasing a property or an incentive, a bond, something like that. We'd have to come back to a public comment, a forum like this to do that. So that's kind of the gist of it. I think I answered. Randy, did I answer in general everything? I'm so sorry, I forgot your name. John, did I give you, is that a decent overview? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think the goal is really just to be able to provide some incentives in these areas. Keep in mind that a large portion of the North TIF goes away. So naturally in 2027, so it makes sense that naturally we would go to another area where we could help out that area and provide incentives.
Thank you, Skylar. That's really important information. And yes, my understanding as well is this inability to assist in different areas without connecting the two, as well as the expiration of the North TIF district coming up. So,
and a lot of people have asked me, I'm so sorry, one more comment. A lot of people have asked me for incentives, especially down Michigan Boulevard and really in the middle. I don't have any tools that can help out down there with anything. So that's kind of the reason for this. I'm sorry, go ahead. Floor is yours.
My name is Claudette Harrison, and I got
Address, please. Thank you.
1207 Pine Street.
Thank you.
And I wasn't sure. I have another property on Buffalo Street, north of the old hospital. And I was wanting to know, I didn't understand what TIF was about at all. And I don't even know what the letters stand for. So can you tell me first of all what?
Absolutely. TIF stands for tax increment financing. We do not collect TIF unless there is an investment on a piece of property. So property, and we do not collect from houses. Private residence, residentially taxed property, we do not collect TIF. So even if you add on to an addition to your house, something like that, the tax, we don't collect that. That stays with the schools and all the other millage that comes off the other.
So if it's a nonprofit rental, that's not considered. Okay.
We do not collect on that. We do not collect from nonprofits. Nonprofits don't pay tax for anyways. Or you shouldn't be, hopefully not. Depends on how your tax structure is set up or your nonprofit set up probably. But yeah, we do not collect on that.
Okay. That was all I wanted. I just wanted to be clear that I understood what it was about.
Yeah, we're not out to take, we don't want to purchase. Please keep investing in your properties. We're not purchasing anything of that nature.
Okay, so you're mainly businesses and you're making things look better.
Absolutely. It's infrastructure, it's businesses, it's streetscaping.
Grants and things that with money you collect from.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's all I wanted. Thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Skylar,
Additional comment. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if I might just add, in terms of the property question that it always comes up, the Redevelopment Commission does not have the power of eminent domain. So there's no way under any circumstance that the Redevelopment Commission can take anyone's property. The most they could do, if somewhere down the road, as Skylar said, if they were interested in acquiring property, they really have to acquire it through a public process. But then the private part, where they make the offer, it's very similar to any private person making an offer to buy another's property. They would make an offer and the owner either accepts or rejects it. And that's basically all that can happen.
Yeah, it's similar to if I wanted to buy a piece of property as a private individual, you either want to sell it, we agree to something, and yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Andrea and Orlando Roughton. 1716-18 East Michigan Boulevard. We've been owners of this property for about 15, 16 years. I'd have to say that during the time frame that we've been here, that I've seen a lot of improvements as far as the streetscape, which is absolutely beautiful. I just wanted to know if during your TIF, if you all would, and you may have already explained that, but if you do have any allocations for funds for beautification of individuals' properties, improvements or things that we could do to help increase the values of the properties along there.
Absolutely. We do that through facade grants. We've done it downtown. It's actually a very successful program. My intention is to expand the facade program over there. Right now, it doesn't exist over there, but keep in mind it works for commercial properties. It could be a mixed use property. So if you have a business below, office above, or residential above, that's a mixed use property, what we consider mixed use.
It's a 4-unit.
That we do those. We are working with all commercially taxed property. We're working with them, and the answer is yes. The goal is to expand our facade program over there so that we have some tools.
Okay, so what would we need to do?
So what happens next with a facade? Good questions. These are great questions, and thanks for asking them. It'll give me opportunity to kind of talk about it. What happens next? So if we do this and we approve this tonight, what we have to do as a commission is we have to adjust our boundaries. The next thing is the map for our facade map, where it's eligible maps or eligible properties. We expand that to encompass the new allocation area. And then hopefully in the near future, we have an application that's already created. We've actually changed it where it's not the Uptown Arts District. It's now the just North End facade. What we'll probably call it is the facade grant program, period. Just is what it is. It doesn't really have a geographic name anymore or boundary anymore. So yeah, the answer is yes. I would say we'd probably have that available at least in the next 4 months, 3 months, 5 months. It could be available. I just have to figure out what we have to do to change our language to identify the geographic boundary of our facade grant area. If that makes sense. I know that sounds like a lot of gobbledygook.
Okay.
Yes, the answer is yes. That was the whole goal.
Okay, I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
I would want to.
Getting the letter, I was like, okay, well, maybe
Sure.
we'll be able to make some improvements and our taxes that we're already paying for.
So the way that our facade grants work, just for general knowledge and public, on commercial properties, we do 60% of the improvement up to a max of 30,000. That's the max we do. So we do, and you can include architectural fees in that. We do windows, siding. I mean, we do anything that can be seen from the street, pretty much. I have Kyle right over there. I'm pointing to him. He's a really busy guy, but he actually runs the facade grant program for us, and he'll help us out when it comes time to make the expansion.
Okay, sounds good.
Absolutely. Thank you for your questions.
All right, thank you.
And being here tonight.
Skylar, I have a quick question. You talked about anything you can see from the street. Does that include sidewalk improvements, concrete steps in the sidewalk, things like that? Or is it just structure?
Sidewalks necessarily, but entryways we've done. Absolutely. We've done entryways. We've done public entryways, which makes sense, right? Because some people want to make them ADA if we can fit it in. And then we've done steps that were crumbling and allowed that. Plus, keep in mind, we're expanding this program. It's really up to this board to tell me what else you want to, what else you think should be in there. So
thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jay Van Smith, and I'm a community developer. I'm a representative of I See It, which is the acronym for Indiana Corporate Industries Technology, Inc. We are a 501c3 industrial corporation. It was incorporated. It was born right here in Michigan City.
Sir, excuse me. Can you give us your address, please?
Yes. We're P.O. Box 542, Michigan City, Indiana. I See It, P.O. Box 542, Michigan City, Indiana. Sir, my concern is, as a developer actually, we had submitted a proposal to the city, and we probably made the wrong selection. It didn't, I've been hearing about Redevelopment Commission, and so we submitted an industrial data file to the mayor office directly, and we've never received a response. Who and how do we get in touch with you people?
You can send it directly to me if you like.
And your name, please?
Skylar York. S. York.
Wait a minute, you Skylar.
Who you are.
Forgive me, guys. These aren't working good.
You can submit it directly to me.
I got you. Skylar, you're in planning, right? Are you still in planning?
Yep.
Okay. I got you. And I must admit, sir, our company submitted an extensive industrial data file to the mayor, and we did not receive not one response. We've taken pains in putting together this material. We are proposing to invest about I believe a $25 million Bigfoot project here. All right, for starters. And that will create jobs, that will generate an extensive, enormous tax base. I understand you paint a beautiful picture about how everything is fine and hunky dory, but in fact, when I was president of the Boulevard Garden Resident Housing Development here in Michigan City, all right, my office was created by HUD. The property which still stands on 6th and in Michigan Boulevard should have been condemned 20 years ago, well, at least 10 years ago. Okay, but I was president there, residing over that property. And my office was created to represent the tenant rights. Okay, so me and management stayed at odds. But I mean, it had to be done. And as such, and in that service, I developed an affinity for people like never before. You know, there have been tenants that have died in those places, in that particular structure, and they've been in there deceased for weeks. And that, you know, and the management didn't give a hoot. Well, we do, okay? And I see it. We're in the people business, but we're also in the business of developing. We're proposing to develop affordable housing projects in Northwest Indiana, throughout Hammond, Gary, Michigan City, South Bend, and we have had the architect, Mr. Roger Poltres from DH2W Inc., to develop plans for this property for several sites here that we propose to develop. But apparently we were just dealing with the wrong source. It was my understanding, well, I thought that the mayor would be the appropriate person. But in Mr. York, we did communicate a while back. I recall having a conference with you. But sure, we didn't get anywhere. And I mean, my heart goes out for the people of Michigan City. Okay, not the politics. Okay, because you guys come and go. But the people, they have a right to a decent standard of living. And the housing stock, for the most part, in general, I would venture 75% of Michigan City's housing stock is dilapidated. Oh yeah, you may do window dressing, paint the front, and put some grass out there to make it look decent. But in actuality, behind that facade, it's nothing there. There's no there. And as a community developer, we're in the business of building affordable, first class, low, moderate, and high-end property developments. Our company is tooling up to go nationwide. Okay, but being that we were incorporated here in Michigan City, we feel an obligation to do something substantial for our city.
I appreciate your comments, sir. If you'd be kind enough to submit the package for proposal to Skylar's office, we'll ensure that you receive some sort of communication in response.
And what is your name?
My name is Bill Gertner.
And who are you?
Who am I? I'm the president of the Redevelopment Commission.
Okay. All right. Well, again, my name is Brother Smith. And I'm the host of Right Now TV, LaPorte County. And again, I thank you all for your service. And Mr. York, you will be hearing back from us.
That's good. Thank you very much. We have a further public comment today. Yes, sir. Thank you. Name and address, please.
My name is Reverend Michael Payton. I live at 1804 East Michigan Boulevard. Thank you, Mr. President, for recognizing me, to Ms. Deutsch and all the members of the panel. I just have a problem with understanding the process of what we are actually being told and what is actually being done. I am suspicious of what's going on because all of a sudden I'm getting so many inquiries from realtors to buy my property. They're blowing my phone up. My Gmail is just blown up. I got to clear it out. They steadily want, and this just didn't start happening in the last 2 months or so. This has been happening for the last couple of years. I have people that are constantly asking me to buy my home as it is. And me and my wife, Susan, we've made substantial investments in our home. Matter of fact, the mayor stopped me watering my lawn one day and told me how beautiful my home was and that people like me were welcome in the community and we make the community better. But if we're wondering, I'm seeing properties being bought and demolished east of me, I'm seeing people who believe that something's going on that we don't quite understand. My mother, we lost our childhood home through the eminent domain at Blue Chip, and a lot of things that were ambiguous we really didn't understand. They were telling us things and showing us things on paper, but we really didn't know how it all shook out. And we're really trying to find out what is really on the wire. I really don't know because we're in a dual commercial zone. We're right between Woodland and Vale Street there. We're curious to know if there is a plan, even if it's from the commercial sector or from the private sector, to buy those properties, because it just seems like, to me, it just looks like a syndicate of people trying to buy that property. Because when I say my parents lived at Blue Chip and we got bought out, it was the same thing. It was so many people came in, but eminent domain took them out. So we don't really know what's on the wire. I don't know if eminent domain could even apply, but we're saying to the city, we just really want to know what's going on in terms that we can understand a little better, because some of that stuff in the letter is sort of kind of in legalese. It's semi-legalese. Sure. I'm not a Harvard law student, but I understood some of it. And we're just curious to know where we really stand as residents, us people that are in that particular area. We really would like to know where we stand and what is on the wire, because I'm not here looking for a grant to improve my property. I have money to do that. We're just trying to find out where we stand.
So
Thank you for your time, Mr. President.
great questions. Great questions. We do not have the power of eminent domain. Just so you know, we do not. We, the Redevelopment Commission, do not have that power. Only the council has that power. So we're not going to be doing eminent domain. We, as this board, we also don't want to purchase property over there. We want to just make improvements to help people make improvements. So owners who might own a storefront there, or they've owned the building for 15 years and they want to make an improvement to that building, we can help with that. We can come in and say, we can give you a grant, which we don't make you pay back. We just give a grant out. It's just money we give out to help. It's money that you've already, essentially, she nailed it, that you paid in for the TIF, and we give it back to the community in form of grants, and we can help out with facades. We can make the improvements better. We can also help out if there's some type of what can I think of, an improvement that, say, the sanitary district wants to do, rather than raising or levying taxes to do that. We can come in and say, we'll help out with a bond to do that. We can bond. We have that power. We can participate from a cash payment as well if we have cash on hand. That's a little bit harder to do because it's easier to pay it off over time. Really, that's it. It's just really about making the Michigan Boulevard better, specifically Michigan Boulevard. I don't know if I can elaborate anymore. Is there a plan from the people purchasing from a private standpoint? I don't have an answer for that. If there is, I'm not privy to that plan. But as far as what we're trying to do tonight, we're just trying to give us some tools, or give the owners of the businesses there some tools so that we can help out and participate if they elect to let us participate with them, or want us to participate with them.
I think that's where I'm at an impasse, is because I'm on the mindset that we were talking about the community as a whole, the property owners, not just the business community. I didn't really see that shining out from the letter, that it was basically aimed at the commercial sector. We're talking about the people that are in the private sector, homeowners, and some homes are being sold and some homes are going. So I'm just curious to know, is the whole emphasis of this seeming to be going toward those who are in the commercial sector, more so than the people that are in the private sector.
Okay, let me back up. Are you talking commercial versus more Residential.
Commercial versus residential.
Okay, just making sure that, yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely.
Largely commercial and only a few homes.
Yeah, everything behind it's residential, right? Yeah.
But we have nice homes.
Absolutely.
And substantial property.
Absolutely.
And we're trying to figure out, so we don't get caught in a bind at some future time. We're really trying to find out what's really going on. I'm just not clear.
Yeah.
My wheels are just quite not clear.
So really the goal of the redevelopment commission from this standpoint is really to we can address derelict property. So if you come and say, hey, this property is just a really bad property, it gives us an opportunity. Can we work with the owner and get them to improve it? Can we, what can we do to help out? So basically, I would say that the residential over there has potential to gain from the standpoint of like, we can then come in and help property owners who may not just have enough. So that corridor kind of cuts through your neighborhood. We would have the opportunity to help out that corridor to then help out the residential properties, if you will, in a roundabout way with respect to, okay, you don't have to drive by a derelict property because that property may just not have the ability to fix that property, but maybe they just need a little help. And then we can come in and provide that help. Sometimes that's how we basically work.
Because I was trying to say our property is directly in line. It's definitely in the pathway as we're going. We're not close to it or bordered. We're on it.
Yeah.
And we're in it. So that's where we personally stand.
Yeah. And unfortunately, what we couldn't do is carve every single thing out of it. So sometimes we can have the ability to carve certain residential out of it. If it is a residential property, we can carve it out. Unfortunately, with this situation with this geographic boundary, we carved out what we could, but we couldn't carve out everything. And then unfortunately we can't donut, if you will, carve something out and then have a donut hole around it. I would just say that, yeah, you are correct. We only typically deal with commercial, mixed use, retail, however you want to define that. Because that's where the improvement is, really what TIF is derived from, is from those improvements. I don't know if I answered your questions or not. I hope I gave you something.
I'm a little better now.
If you don't want a quick comment,
call me and ask me any questions you like.
I am not aware of any plan to do anything outside of incentivized investment.
Yeah, that's really it.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
We're just trying to give you the homeowner, or not the home, we're trying to give the residents or whoever might own property in that corridor some tools to do some reinvestment. That's really, at its bottom line, is really that. And it could be on their personal property, that's commercial property, that personal commercial property, or it may be in the form of a sanitary district improvement, a water improvement. It may be a streetscaping improvement. It may be something like that. We may get new street furniture or lighting. I don't know right now, but we'll have to see how it evolves and kind of what the thought of maybe some of the residents are, or owners, I should say.
Thank you. Online, please go ahead.
Hi, this is
Name and address.
From 1316 Ohio Street. Yeah, there's something there. I didn't know the Redevelopment Commission doesn't have the power of eminent domain, only the council does. But I got some exciting news to pass along about the development on Michigan Boulevard. My neighbor lady, Miss Kiki Davis Edmond, Clyde Davis, her mom, they're the proprietors of the Hearts and Hands Childcare at 1302 Ohio Street. But 2 months ago, they purchased the old Infonics building at Michigan Boulevard in Calumet, and they're going to be relocating their daycare business into that building. And I think that's going to be a great. She's fixing it up, and it's going to be really nice. She's a very creative woman. I know her really well. I kind of watch over her place, her daycare, when the parents drop off and pick up their kids. But she's going to have that looking great, and I think that's going to be a great addition to the boulevard. And I want to just pass that along and let everybody know that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy.
Any further public comments? Yes, please.
Yes, my name is Deborah Vance. I live at 318 Gardena Street. And I just have a question, just a little clarification, first of all, on where the North District actually starts and, kind of get that area. That map was kind of hard to read.
District starts.
Where are we looking on the boulevard? It goes from what point?
Yes, yeah, in general, I would say in general, you're dealing with right about where, let me think of what street that is, 9th Street.
Okay.
11, some of 11, it kind of jogs in there, but 11th Street, 9th to 11th, and that little area kind of comes to a point right there, down to Rusky is where we would be, and we would be hugging the backbone of Michigan Boulevard. And then we would catch the industrial area, those kind of industrial areas around Carroll Street. There used to be some warehousing back in there. There's some just vacant land back there. Rusky.
Yes.
Past Rusky.
Okay.
Past Rusky, yes, back behind Rusky. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I look at the map of the city. You would think I would know just about every day. But there's a lot of vacant land back in there, and it's post-industrial or past industrial land. I would venture to say that we're not in a position to purchase any of that land, but there's a reason it's probably set and fallow and vacant. Probably has some environmental issues. It maybe just doesn't have people looking at it, or maybe a focus on it. So there's some opportunities there. For development or redevelopment or subdivision, even, things of that nature, depending on what lies under the ground. But that's kind of in general. And then it just hugs that backbone along Michigan Boulevard. And really the goal was just to capture the B2 commercially zoned properties along Michigan Boulevard. But you're on the commission, so you understand what B2 is our commercial zoning. I didn't sneak into the residential area or anything like that. I tried to stay out of your residential area. Again, we don't draw TIF off of any residential area, so it makes sense not to include that if at all possible.
Well, I appreciate that because I wasn't sure if it started all the way up at 12 and came back or.
So what'll happen is eventually, if we do this merger, put them together. Yes, the answer is yes. It will start at 12 because right now the northern end is at 11th Street and it goes to 12 and it actually hugs 12 and goes over 12 and catches that area of 12 where Pioneer Lumber is, things of that nature. So it'll all be one essentially.
And then it would go back include a lot of that historical.
It will include some of the historical, but keep in mind, as I mentioned previously, a lot of it goes away in 2027. A lot of the north end goes away. So that's kind of why we're looking at, okay, what's the next frontier? And really, I think that Michigan Boulevard deserves some of the tools that the other parts of the city has.
Right. I appreciate that. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. Further public comments?
My name again is Dave Vila, and in conclusion.
Address, please, Mr. Vila.
Yes, in conclusion. October the 11th, 1983, City Resolution 2922 is when we created one of the first 7 enterprise zones in the state of Indiana, of which I was on the city council to approve. 40 years later, we are at this point. Economic development is at our doorstep. I'm just saying government works in a slow, methodical process, slower than a hare in a tortoise race, or so to speak. My motivation back then was economic development. I still continue, and I'm glad to see what's going on, even though I have to utilize means to make my point. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment?
So is that a positive comment, Mr. Beal?
Didn't catch that?
Ms. Deutsch, you had a comment?
I'll wait and see if you have any more public comment first to close.
Is there any other further public comment?
Any whatsoever? Any other questions I can answer?
Got one.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Please. I see Joe in the back. Do you have a public comment, Joe? Okay. Hello.
I am Marie Lewis at 117 Detroit Street, right across the street from the Moose. And where you're building the railroad tracks down through there. Well, I keep getting these notices and things about investing. People want to invest and talk about do this and do that. I want to stay in my home. I don't want y'all to take my home away from me because that's all I got.
Sure. Are they notices saying, hey, we'll buy your property, things of that nature?
Not really, but a lot of people have been interested in.
Okay. If they don't have my name on it or an official a letterhead, I would have an official letterhead and then my name will be on it, just so you know if it's coming from this board. But don't sell your property, I would say.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Say so. And that was my question, because I can't get rid of the only thing that I really have. That's all I have.
Absolutely. I understand completely.
Trying to get a grant to help fix it up a little bit. I never get any response. Nobody answers, nobody says anything.
Okay. Have you looked at the UEZ grants, Urban Enterprise Zone? I know they're still doing grants. They are still doing grants. I tell you what, if you, Kyle, you're here. I'm sorry, Kyle, I'm putting you on the spot. Would you take her name and her number, please? Thank you so much. Don't sell your house. You don't have to. It's no. It's not us. It's not coming from us. I can tell you that.
Okay, as long as it don't come from anybody.
Yeah, right. It's not us. So thank you for your comments, though.
Have a blessed night.
You as well. Is there any
Ms.
further public comment?
Mr. Core, I saw you back there itching.
Come on down.
Can I talk from here? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, cool. First of all, I've been in your guys' position before, and with the Redevelopment Commission for Laporte County. TIF is a very good thing. That has created so many different avenues for Laporte County around the area of Michigan City, Laporte, out in the countryside of things. And I think it makes all the sense in the world for your group to try to combine your South TIF and North TIF. It gets you a little more powerful, especially if the North TIF is getting ready to kind of decrease, which from what you had said. So I think you're making the right decision here. And I think a lot of people ask these questions, especially on the residential side. But quite honestly, economic development and business development has to be supported by the TIF areas. And without that, you're not going to have any development in Michigan City. So I think you're making the right move to try to combine them. I'm not sure that can happen, but I think we're going to find out here just a little bit whether it can or it can't. But I certainly think it'd be a good thing for the city of Michigan City. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Is there any other questions? I just want to make sure I get everyone's questions answered tonight. I know the letter was a little ambiguous, so I agree with that. I did, if I could speak to you all like this, it would have been great, but there was 844 letters that went out, so it was a little overwhelming, a little daunting. And the statute does require us to do that, just so you guys know. The statute requires that. Yes, and we have to approve it. Yeah.
There you go. Go ahead and entertain a motion tonight.
Well, and I have a comment.
Yep, I apologize.
That's
please.
right. So one thing I will say is that when I was on the council in 2008 and we took over Michigan Boulevard, it would have changed the face of the boulevard if we had TIF'd that area at that time. And growing up in Eastport off of Edward Street, moving back here, I believe that Michigan Boulevard was going to be the gateway into Michigan City and not have the liquor stores and the pawn shops and the different things that are on the boulevard. And one of the reasons why we haven't seen the development on the boulevard is because we didn't have this mechanism in place when we took over the beautification project. And now we're delayed all these, it's over a decade now. We took that over while I was on the council before, and expected big things to happen when we did that, and it didn't because we didn't have a mechanism to help the businesses that were on the boulevard. That's why we don't have a grocery store. That's why we don't have things in that plaza. That's why, nothing against that, but that's why we have more churches and things in that area, because there was no mechanism to build anything significant. And we still need the churches in there, but we could get rid of some of the liquor stores. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. But this will actually help residents in the sense that your property is going to become more valuable. That's why they're knocking at your doors, because they see that with the TIF, people can now invest money in the boulevard, and your homes now are important, that they may want to approach you about your homes, just because now they have a mechanism to do some big things on the boulevard. It's just that's the way it works, is that they see that some things are going to happen, and that these businesses now can come in and do some good work. So think about the businesses that have been there, like, for instance, JoJo's left. JoJo's was working on a grant, trying to figure out what they're going to do before they left. Dunkin' Donuts, these people are doing this with their own money, without any help, any incentives. So they're having to foot the bill and figure it out. And then we wonder why there's constant rotation of businesses on the boulevard, because they're doing it all out their own money and out their own pockets and through loans. There's not a benefit or tax incentive or anything that they can use. This puts the mechanism in place for them to do that. So you will probably continue to receive people reaching out to you, but it just allows us to to get some quality businesses that can be sustainable and not closing their doors over and over and over again. That's what this is. So in layman's terms, everything you heard is correct, but in a nutshell, that's what it is, really, truly. So I move that we approve the consolidation of North and South TIF areas and expansion.
I second that.
Do we have to? Oh, so the public hearing is closed?
Public hearing is closed.
So I move that we approve the consolidation of North and South TIF areas and expansion. And confirming resolution.
Now that the public hearing is closed, I second that motion.
Any further discussion? Go ahead and put this up for a vote. Ms. Dennis?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just say?
Yes, please.
I wanted to thank the public for being here tonight. These are really all valid questions, and you ask great questions, and you should be concerned about your properties. That lets me know that you actually care. So I really appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Great. Next up, we've got a public hearing to discuss the lease between the Redevelopment Commission and the Building Corporation, and the lease approval and lease rental resolutions. I'll go ahead and hand this off to Randy to bring us up to speed.
Sure. So this resolution is the second step. You took action at your July meeting to set the hearing for this tonight. You preliminarily approved the lease then, and tonight you would be taking final action on the lease. In between, the Common Council did approve the execution of the lease. So should you adopt the resolution this evening, you will be able to, the officers will be able to sign the lease and will be able to publish the execution of the notice of that execution. The lease itself is important because it provides for the funding mechanism for the lease of or for the station block financing itself. And it's the lease that provides the security for that. So you would be using tax increment from the now consolidated area as a second source of funding. The first source of funding would be the station block itself. So that's why we declared that as a separate allocation area tonight, as well as part of that confirming resolution. So the lease provides for a maximum lease rental of $2,750,000 and a maximum lease term of 25 years. Both are subject to being reduced at the time of the sale of the bonds, so that ultimately when the bonds are sold, the lease rental will match the debt service and the lease term will match the term of the financing. The council will consider the bonds themselves on third reading at their council meeting tomorrow evening. And should they adopt the ordinance, then that would be the final piece of the puzzle. But tonight would be for you to have the lease hearing and then consider adoption of the resolution. There's a second resolution that goes along with it. If you'd like, I can just speak to that quickly. That resolution simply provides the mechanism where you would pay the lease rental. If you recall, at the last meeting I spoke about, just referred to earlier, the tip that you would use to pay the lease rental, to be able to get the lowest interest rate in the market, you would be providing a tax backup. And this second resolution basically is your agreement to provide that tax backup, so that in the event that there's not sufficient TIF revenue, either from the project or from the consolidated area, you would in fact levy a tax. But Andy Mauser is on as well, and he can tell you, and I'll say it now as well, that the way the financing is structured, there is significant TIF coverage that would have to go away, and that's not likely to happen. You have a long history of TIF, and so the financing is based off that history of TIF, and the financing is structured so that you wouldn't have to deal with that. The last piece of the puzzle I'll mention in terms of that resolution, the developer is committing to the project taxes. I believe the number is $810,000. They will sign a taxpayer agreement guaranteeing the project TIF. So you'll at least have that as well. So those are the two resolutions. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rimpala.
Yeah, I do. So the documents that we have, the lease agreement, so that is a part of one of the resolutions. And so we don't have to do 3 approvals. So resolution 723, is that the lease agreement piece one?
It's actually 623 is the lease, and then 723 is related, but it's actually 623 that approves the lease.
Okay. So this one, so 623
approves the form of the lease and authorizes its execution, and then 723 is the security for the bond financing that provides, and for the payment of the lease rental that provides that tax levy backup, if you will.
So, okay, so what is the 823? Oh, that's the disposition one.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. I just want to make sure I had them all correct.
Yeah.
So Randy, is that 2 different votes for?
Yes.
Okay.
After the public hearing, then 6 can be considered, and then 7.
Okay. Thank you.
And it's only a public hearing. Is it a public hearing for each one?
Actually, it's only a public hearing with respect to 6.
623.
623, correct.
Okay.
Well, go ahead and open it up for public hearing. Yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dave Bila. I live at 3044 Ohio Street. Being close to 80 years old, that's all I can do is glean from the computer. One of the things that I punched in on Google was a Google search as to the national average for building parking garages. According to Google, the national average of building parking garages range between $7.5 million and $12 million. That averages out to about $9.75 million per garage. It's my understanding, excuse me, it's my understanding that at $9.75 million parking garage, for this current TIF financing project that you guys are considering, the interest rate is roughly $12 million over and above the average cost of a parking garage. Now, based on this information, my question is, there are three aspects to TIF financing. And one of those three aspects is pay-as-you-go. My question to the Redevelopment Commission, have they ever considered pay-as-you-go to possibly save some of this $12 million in financing?
Yes, we do look at pay as you go, but this is a $22 million, it's a $100 million project, and of it, we're paying 22 million. So we do not have that money on hand. So it's better to bond. And Andy, I'll let you speak to that if you had the question.
Before Andy responds, we are talking about specifically a parking garage. In all of the language that I've read for the dual track system, the city is obligated for a parking garage, not a 22 million, not a glamorous project in addition to the parking garage.
No, we're obligated to all of it with our current contract or current.
I've been involved in, we promoted the South Shore and the dual track system for 14, 15 years, ever since I've been on our show. And basically, my understanding, the only obligation we have is for a parking garage adjacent to the dual track system. If there are any additional flowers and camouflage areas and something, I personally am not aware of it, because I've discussed this with Mike Nolan, and a parking garage is committed by the city of Michigan City to make the dual tracks project viable.
Correct. You are correct. So I can elaborate a little bit on that. So yeah, so when this project first started, it was a partnership with the FTA and the NICTD, South Shore Line, and the city. And we were going to do a $16 million parking garage that housed this is just for the public knowledge, that housed it was a 437 units of parking with it housed oh my gosh, I'm having a brain situation here. The depot. Yeah, the depot. I was trying to think of the train depot inside. Sorry, there was a lot of talking earlier. The train depot inside of it. What that did was that be that an impactful project, we went back to the FTA and along with NICTD, they allowed us to do that. And we negotiated a agreement between NICTD, the FTA, Federal Transit Authority, and the RDA, the Redevelopment Authority, and the IF, Indiana Finance Authority, and the city of Michigan City. We all jumped in and said, we think we can take that $16 million and use it as an incentive to build something even more impactful. And that's where we're at today with our most recent agreement with that group of people I just listed off, or group of entities I just listed off. So what we're building today is a $100 million project that includes a 583 unit parking garage, a 220 units of apartments, a mixed use building, and I'm missing probably one more thing. Is that it? Okay. It also has a rooftop amenity on the 6th floor of the parking garage. All that for the $16 million that the federal government's putting in. The Indiana Finance Authority is involved. We are putting in some money as well. This is our portion of that. So that's the agreement as it stands to this at this point in time. So yes, we are committed to doing a garage. You are correct, but it's morphed into something more than just a garage. Mike Nolan's very much aware of it. He was involved in all the discussions, as well as numerous other entities along the way. This will be the first of its kind in Indiana. This is the first federal transit authority and Indiana, a local government, municipal government partnership. And this is also the first of it in the region. I don't even think Chicago has this, so we have one up on Chicago. So this is a really special project, and the economic impact of it is probably 4 or 5 times fold as just a parking garage. If you think about a parking garage, people come, they park in your downtown, and then they leave your downtown. This actually, you park and people stay in our downtown and reside in our downtown. So the economic impact is definitely multiplied by using our incentive power, which this lease and this bond is using that incentive power. So that's where we stand at this point.
And just say one thing too. I don't know. You said you got your figures from Google. I can tell you as it relates to this parking garage. When NICD and the federal government first came to us, they talked about this thing being a $16 million parking garage for 437 spaces. It is now morphed into, again, just for the parking garage itself, 22 million. So I don't know where you got your figures from before, but it's a far cry from 9 million. And that's based on, again, when
national average.
Right. And when they talked about the 16 million, when they first came, that was pre-COVID, pre-inflation, pre-supply shortages. So that's why it's driven up. But the garage itself of this entire project is roughly $22 million.
And my intent here again is for clarity. Okay, as I said, after 40 years, I'm sure glad we're getting something done. But I have to be a doubting Thomas until I physically see the shovel in the ground.
So Andy, will you talk a little bit about just in a nutshell? I'm sorry, I don't want to belabor anything. Just talk about a little bit about the structure of the financing mechanism. What's our percentage that we're looking at? I don't think it's 12 by any means. So, yeah, I don't know, that makes sense, Andy. I'm sorry, put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the goal of financing something like this as opposed to pay as you go is, for one, is to make sure we continue to give the Redevelopment Commission the ability to do additional pay as you go commitments. Things like the school grants, coming up with an incentive of this size out of cash would, deplete RDC balances and potentially tie up, additional revenues over the next few years. So by bonding this out, that will make sure the RDC can continue to take on some of those additional pay-as-you-go obligations. And then also it helps make sure that this project is self-supporting as much as possible. The goal of the financing is for as much of the repayment to come from the TIF generated from the project itself. When we look at the financing and we compare to what we think the project will generate, and then your existing north side and south side TIF areas, we think that coverage level should remain around 150%. So for every dollar of debt service, there's about $1.50 coming in of TIF, and that's important, obviously, just to have that coverage on the debt. But then again, that extra 50% on top, that's what the Redevelopment Commission uses for the school grants and for those other ongoing commitments. Our current estimate on the interest rate is probably somewhere in the high 5%. This will be a taxable financing just because of the private nature of the development, and then some of the guarantees from the developer, which are definitely a positive to make sure the city receives, what we anticipate a project of this size should generate. But again, even at a taxable interest rate, we hope to be somewhere in the high 5 to low 6% for a 25-year financing. So still very competitive.
And that's an important point. It is a commitment from you guys to the residents of Michigan City who reside within this TIF district. It's a 25-year commitment. I just want to make it clear that this is what's all involved. So I'm not that ogre that you might think I am. Thank you.
No, those are great questions.
Thank you. Any further public commentary? Any public commentary on Zoom? That said, we'll go ahead and close the public comment section. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt the resolution of the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission authorizing the execution of a lease between the City of Michigan City Building Corporation and the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission relating to the mixed-use transit project and all matters related thereto.
I will second the motion.
Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and put this up for a vote. Ms. Dennis?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries. All right. Up next, we've got the property disposition, the station block resolution.
If actually I can jump back in, I apologize, but you actually do need to cover resolution 723 as well.
Yeah, we have two different resolutions.
Oh, I'll go ahead and make that motion. I move to adopt resolution 7-23, a resolution of the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission determining to provide for a special tax if necessary to pay lease rentals in connection with the lease dated as of June 1st, 2023 between the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission and the City of Michigan City Building Corporation relating to the mixed-use transit project.
I second the motion.
We'll go ahead and put that to vote. Ms. Dennis?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Next up, property disposition, the station block resolution.
So yeah, just quickly, this is the final step in this process as well, just to close out the legal requirements to be able to dispose of the station block property to the developer for the construction of the projects. What this resolution does is basically indicate you've gone through the process and you are now able to, at the conclusion of a 30-day period, negotiate and transfer title. And so this resolution gives the officers the authority to do that at the end of the 30 days. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. The resolution. I move to adopt the resolution of the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission regarding disposition of property
I'll second the motion.
at the station block.
Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and put this to vote. Ms. Dennis?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you. Up next, South TIF Connectivity Improvement Project update and approvals. Skylar.
Yeah, I'll just give a quick one on this. We are coming right along with our sidewalk project. You may see the new sidewalks going in for the public. The sidewalks on the western side of 421 down around Larkspur. That's a project of the Redevelopment Commission. There will be a crosswalk installed at Larkspur, so that will be a pedestrian crosswalk. The idea, again, is just to give people an opportunity to get across 421 in a safe manner, and hopefully get people off of 421 as much as we possibly can. I know there's still a lot of sidewalks we need down there. I understand. We're just trying to figure. This is just kind of the first phase of making those connections, and then. Just a little bit more about Town Center Drive. We get asked a lot about that at our last meeting. One of the councilmen, Don Prespolinski, I think had asked. I have informed him of what we're doing. But just so you know, we're in negotiations right now. And Alan, I don't want to steal it. We're in negotiations right now with the owners of the respective Lowe's and Myers. And we think eventually we will have that in our control. Once we get it in our control, we will be able to hopefully dedicate it to the city at some point in time. Mr. Brad Minnick's working with us on that, as well as Haas and Associates. Brad's working with us on it in the capacity of the city engineer, and then his colleagues are working on it in the capacity of helping us develop a plan for replacement, things of that nature. And then our next step is basically working with Walmart to try to make the connection between Walmart and their drive, basically 400 and Town Center Drive, to make that connection. So that we'll have a bus route off of Franklin Street, essentially, and shelters and things of that nature.
Just to update you further on that, just from first of all, previously I've reported that there were 3 property owners, DLZ, who's doing our surveying work, and then confirmed by the property owner itself. MC 421 is not actually own any of that roadway. It's actually all owned by Meyer. So that means we're down just to 2 property owners. Lowe's, my contact with Lowe's, they indicate they should probably have an answer for me tomorrow or Wednesday. Everything has been favorable with them. With Myers, again, nothing but positives. It's just when you deal with those large corporations and you have to go through their large processes, it's currently under review, but no problem is anticipated. But I don't have a date yet of when they expect that'll happen. But again, I would expect sometime in the next week or 2. So,
thank you. All right, You Are Beautiful site updates.
So You're Beautiful, some site updates. We are coming right along with that. You may have seen the solar project at the boat races this past week. You may have, you will see some more of coming along in the near future. As of right now, we're preparing to make sure that our bond councils meet and have a discussion about moving forward and the processes of moving forward with respect to that development. Alan, am I forgetting anything else regarding that? I think that's kind of where we're at right now. Really, the all focus is getting our train station commitments in place, and then I think we'll jump right into this one.
I think we'll have a bigger report on You Are Beautiful next month.
Yeah, absolutely. We meet not this week, but next week, and we'll know a lot more about what's coming down the pipeline and what processes we need to go through.
Right. Great, thank you. Report by legal counsel.
First, there was an executive session before this meeting tonight. No items were discussed, no issues were discussed that were contrary to the open door law. No decisions were made. Second, one last thing just to finish up on Town Center Drive. I think at the last meeting I asked for authority to commence with some kind of a code enforcement action. Obviously, with what I just said, that's not going to be necessary. We should have favorable resolution on that very quickly. Some aggravating news. I think we all have horror stories about the BMV being the worst of state agencies. I am nominating IDEM as being a worse public agency. We got notice. When did you call me? Last Wednesday or Thursday? That they were, with no notice at all, that they were going to come out to our station block property, and they wanted to see if they just wanted to look at it. So they come out from Valparaiso, and they see it's still a vacant lot. Good, but then they start saying we are in violation. The city is in violation of providing reporting information to IDEM on an annual basis. The report was due in March, and we didn't give them one. And as the property owner, we're supposed to do that. So they're going to write us up for that. Very calmly for me, I then advised them there are the former owner of 1002 Franklin Street, the convenience store, and there also used to be a dry cleaner there. Those 2 owners, those principal polluters, are voluntarily cleaning it up under the threat of an environmental action, but they're voluntarily cleaning it up. I know that because I see quarterly reports from the company that they have hired, the consultants that they have hired to clean up the property. They come to me before they go to IDEM. IDEM is getting these quarterly reports.
but yet we're getting written up because they're not getting quarterly report or getting annual reports from us. And I said, but you have the reports. And he said, then he literally went, you need to consider the fact that IDEM has walls. And so we don't know what's going on the other side of the wall. So I said, you go right ahead and write us up and please send it to my attention. And I will go into some kind of dissertation with IDEM. But I'm just telling you that we're going to get a violation for something that's absolutely the stupidest thing I've heard this side of the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. So,
but eventually, in the near future, we will not be the owner of this property.
No, we won't.
So
it'll be developed. And again,
it's up to the developer at that point.
so let me kind of just, that's a good way to segue into what we talked about last month as far as vacating the public alleyway and the importance of getting that done in a very time-sensitive manner. One, because so we then end up being in breach of our contract and commitments to NICD and Flaherty and Collins, but also because of the fact that as part of the overall development and because of this contaminated site on the old 1002 Franklin Street property, we needed to have the new plat drawn, which has happened, the new plat recorded, which has happened, and going from 10 different parcels and parcel ID numbers to only 2, which has happened. And that was important so that Flaherty and Collins could take those 2 parcel numbers and then go to, or specifically the 1 parcel number, which is where the cleanup is occurring, and give that to IDEM so that they could then turn around and evaluate and give us a what they call a comfort letter, which basically is saying, basically will be an environmental restrictive covenant that would be placed on the property. For example, we can anticipate one of the restrictive covenants being that whoever develops that property, they cannot use a private well for obvious reasons, because the ground's contaminated. Well, obviously, the developer's not going to tap a private well. They're going to use the city water system. So that's an easy one to get rid of. A more significant one is a vapor intrusion or a vapor barrier somewhere on this mixed-use building. And that won't be a problem as long as the developer is going to give us or give the developer the additional $500,000 it's going to cost to put this vapor screen in the building, which again should not be that big of a deal. But those are the things that should happen. The problem and why it was so time sensitive is IDEM says it will take 120 days in which for them to evaluate this information and then get out the comfort level. So we wanted to get that clock started right away. And it has. So we're getting there. As for where we are with regards to the city, the property taxes, it was actually $6,400 of my money has been paid. But the court case is still going on. Judge Alavisos has agreed to hear the case, which is good. That'll cut down on time. Their former county attorney, who's now representing them on this case, Mr. Jones out of, I think he's in Mishawaka or South Bend, he filed a motion to enlarge his response to that until August 28th. So sometime between now and then, I will file an amended motion that no longer has to have the language in there with regards to injunctive relief, since we don't need that now, but will allow for seeking attorney fees and for reimbursement for the $6,400 in property taxes that have been paid. So that's ongoing. Finally, as long as we're on the environmental issue, we've talked before about this trench interceptor to be the final straw or the final act that needs to occur for the Trail Creek property cleanup. August Mac has prepared, and they're our consultant, August Mac has prepared a bid package for them. And I guess what I'm asking for the commission tonight is permission for August Mac to let that bid package go out. There will be, and we will award bids. We work backwards from next month's meeting on September 11th, that we would award bid that night. That would mean the bid deadline would be September 7th, and there would be a bidders conference on August 31st. There will be a special meeting for the bid deadline and the opening of the bids for September 7th, but as we've done previously, that is only again because the statute says we need to do that. It would be nice if we had one commissioner show up at that meeting. We will give notice like it is a meeting. And because we're not making a decision on the bids, all we're doing is opening them, taking them under advisement, and then August Mack will give us a report on September 11th for that.
When is the bid opening?
The bid opening will be September 7th, which is a Thursday, and then they'll come back to us on Monday, the 11th, for a report of the lowest and most responsive bid.
Okay.
And we would do that, that special meeting, myself and somebody from the commission. But again, it's not important we have a quorum. It's just that we have it as an official meeting, as an official special meeting that allows us to open the bids, read them on record, take them under advisement, close the meeting, and that's all we'll do on that. We meet our statutory requirement on that, and it allows us to continue to move forward in the most convenient manner possible. So that'll be coming up. So I would like a motion tonight in which we allow August Mack to let out those bids on the commission's behalf for the trench interceptor portion of the Trail Creek cleanup.
All right, thank you.
Need a bid for that. I would need a motion for that. And I got one more thing after that.
I move that we allow, oh gosh, help me with the wording of how this should.
If we could just, the commission will allow August Mack to allow bids for the trench interceptor portion of the Trail Creek cleanup project.
That the commission allow August Mack to put out bids for the interceptor.
I second it.
Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and put this up for a vote. Ms. Dennis?
Aye.
Ms. Nelson Deitch?
Aye.
Mr. Warner?
Aye.
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries.
And then I have one last thing. Good news. August Mack, Charlie Gomez called me Friday, I believe it was, and he says that they have a grant that allows them to do free environmental services to municipalities. And because of our relationship, Michigan City's relationship with August Mack, they would like to offer that to us. So I'm not sure what stage what form that would take place. Clearly, if we need to do a phase 1 environmental and a phase 2 environmental, they'll do that at no cost. Other kind of things, let me know and ask for the moon. I have no trouble asking them that. We've given them enough money. We can. So that was more just an announcement at that point.
That's great news. Those are quite costly to obtain. So appreciate that conversation. We've got up next the director's report. Skylar.
I'll be brief. I know it's been a long night. Thanks everyone for bearing with us. I would just also like to say that we did get what we did get from IDEM, which was something good this past week. We did get a notice of approval for the parking garage for the station block to be built. So they have given their sign off. It is a municipal building in the end. So it's a municipal project. So our local sanitary district does not have the sign off authority on that, since it'd be like us scratching our own back. So IDEM has the approval process of that. IDEM provided us with the approval for construction. So that's good news. It's one more step in the right direction. Hopefully we can get our comfort letter soon. So that would be an excellent thing to happen. Other than that, tomorrow night, we have the third reading of our bond for the station block, the financing mechanism, which is the incentive to the developers. Hopefully everyone tuned in to see the developers at the last meeting. I believe David Flaherty was here. Not believe he was here. He was here. I thought he did a really good job addressing the council, and just appreciative of him being here. I would like to say that the reason why we're involved with Flaherty and Collins is because of their track record and their reputation. They do not intend to flip this building. They intend to hold this building. They hold buildings on long-term commitments, meaning they hold a building 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. So that means a lot to the city. And what that means to the city and the residents is when the building falls, something's wrong with it, we know who to call. They have their own management company. They have their own, they provide in-house management, in-house renting, in-house taking care of that building. So that's really important to us. And on top of that, they've given us a taxpayer guarantee, which is what the developer has said, regardless of what it makes or taxes are, we're going to pay X. And that X is about $814,000 a year. So regardless if it appraises it only brings in 600,000, they're going to have to pay $814,000 a year. So that's a really important thing for us as a city. And I think those are the kind of the track records that we want. Those are the people we want from a redevelopment commission standpoint to be involved in, or we want to be involved with those types of developers and developments so that we can ensure that the quality of that development it lasts as long as the bond for 25 years or hopefully even longer than that. So anyways, that's just some comments. Other than that, I don't have anything else. Thank you all. Thanks for the public to be here again. I really appreciate your comments and your questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Skylar. With that said, we'll go ahead and open it up for additional public commentary. Do we have anyone in person? Anyone on Zoom?
This is Tommy Kolovic from 1316 Ohio Street. I would like to make a recommendation for any further use for the You Are Beautiful site. We all know that great big edifice you're planning on putting in there. They're probably going to put the shovels in the ground pretty soon. I know back in 2019, I said the city acquired the 3 acres north of the administration building on Carroll Avenue. They got all that open land now. When they wanted Johnny Stimley, when he was on the council, he wanted to put a dog park there. Now it's under the jurisdiction of the Michigan City Park Department. All they're doing is mowing the grass. So, you know, the event like what Mr. Hodges Hawkins did for his daughter, that'd be a great spot to have their event in the future when the Your Beautiful site's no longer available to anybody else that wants to use that. I think also at the Town Center Drive, the connection with the Walmart, I feel the city should also acquire the drive that goes into Walmart. Walmart owns that drive. You know, there's a lot of issues with littering. And there's also issues with vagrancy. You know, there's really no, it's against our ordinance to, you know, to solicit it in our streets. I just think we need to attain their ownership of that property too. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments on Zoom? With that said, we'll go ahead and close out the public comment section. Next up, commissioner comments. Yes, ma'am.
I just thank everybody for coming tonight. This is probably the most, the longest and the most people I've seen in the audience. So just appreciate their comments.
Any further comment?
And Angie took the wind out of my sails. That's exactly what I was going to say. So thank you all for coming.
Hey, go ahead, sir.
We'll tell everybody that had a great opening of school this year. Monday's program was fantastic in the morning with everybody at the high school. And then Wednesday, the first day of school, I visited the schools, and the happiness and it was just a different feeling than it has been the last several years. Just when I walked in on Monday, and then when I talked to people on Wednesday, it was the same thing that I felt on Monday. And our little wolves will be in session pretty soon, so I'm looking forward to that at the Brown Mackey building. So they're finishing that up, 2 classrooms. So, but off to a great start. And thank you for your support.
Absolutely. Thank you. Only comments I would offer is I think that we're just on pace to create some extraordinary opportunity, continue that, and I'm planning to hope to get out of the way of any excitement going on. So I'll be here to support. And with that said, next meeting day, September 11th, 2023.
Also special meeting on.
And yes, the special meeting on September 7th is on the agenda as well. Great. That said, go ahead and open it up to adjourn the meeting.
I second that motion.
Great.
Some signatures. There's a lot here.
You guys have a great night. Thank you.